Now to another major story we're following. A group of federal ministers is addressing hundreds of First Nations chiefs as they gather again in Ottawa today. It is the final day of the Assembly of First Nations annual general meeting. Now this meeting sets the stage for one of this October between First Nations and First Ministers. It will be the highest level gathering in decades. And today's session comes after AFN delegates unanimously resolved to oppose the Carney government's sweeping proposed reforms. They are aimed at streamlining major project approvals, but the AFN says it will oppose those reforms if they weaken environmental protections or sidestep Indigenous rights. And the CBC's Creason Ashkate has been covering this meeting for us. He joins us now once again live from Ottawa. Creason, we are already hearing from leaders this morning. What are they saying today?
Arthi, the chiefs were opposed to the Carney government's streamline approval process of a one-year timeline to build Canada's economy. Following the ongoing threats from the U.S., they all agreed on that yesterday. AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak said that this process subordinates the honor of the Crown to what she calls commercial imperatives. And she says it will give rise to questions about the legitimacy of approvals. So a strong, we're not budging stance regarding major project approvals from the National Chief, adding, quote, "The feds can try and set up all the timelines they want for project approvals, but they can't put a deadline on First Nations rights." Here's what she had to say to CBC News earlier in the hour.
First Nations, we've always been for prosperity, but not at the expense of our rights or the Crown's legal obligations to our people. And so I know that, we've talked to the ministers again this morning about the Major Projects Office. They can't use that as a crutch to avoid their free, prior, and informed consent to First Nations. And, we want to make this country the best that it can be, but it needs to be in partnership with First Nations first and foremost. And, we can't be left out of the prosperity of this country anymore.
So again, a strong stance from the National Chief and the chiefs all backing her on that.
And Creason, what are you also hearing from the federal ministers who, as we mentioned, are addressing the chiefs today?
That's right, Arthi. Some of the Prime Minister's, Mark Carney's main cabinet ministers are here, and they opened up the start of this morning, including Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Dominic LeBlanc, Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, Tim Hodgson, and Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, Rebecca Alty. Up next is Indigenous Services Minister Maddie Golmasti, Minister of Public Safety Gary Nadasangri, and Secretary of State Buckley Belanger. For the first three ministers that presented to the chiefs this morning, they kind of gave a report card to the chiefs saying, and gave them reassurances that we want to build Canada with you, we want to include Indigenous people. But when it came time for questions from the chiefs, a lot of them lined up immediately and were very critical of the federal government of pushing natural resource projects forward, but without Indigenous consultation and lack of consultation. And of course, with regards to the environment, how these pipelines, how these future projects will impact the environment potentially over the years. So many questions. First Nation chiefs left in the dark time and time again. A lot of chiefs saying this has been a reoccurring issue over the many prime ministers and decades over the years from this federal government. Here is what Minister Dominic LeBlanc said to chiefs regarding reassurances to them.
As we transform our economy by advancing major nation-building projects in every part of the country, we will uphold the rights of Indigenous people, as is our constitutional obligation and as our laws require. And we will seek to bring your communities and the rights holders that you represent in as full partners in these projects, creating generational economic opportunities for everyone.
So reassurances and a bit of a report card from the ministers. I know Minister Hodgson was also explaining all of the deals that they have since made with First Nations. So this will be a hot topic issue right across throughout the day.
Thank you for this, Creason. That is the CBC's Creason Ashkate at the AFN meeting in Ottawa.